Heal Your Shit is a podcast for anyone curious about why life throws us curveballs. We're all about digging into the connections between mind, body, and soul, but we keep it real. Because, let's be honest, being human can be one wild ride. Once you understand your shit, healing it becomes a whole lot easier. Hi, welcome to Heal Your Shit podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Laura.
And I'm Olof. So for me, I went to a space in my life where it was so much suffering that I just couldn't bear with it. So I basically had to choose between becoming a bitter old man or start healing my shit. So for me, that path went through a lot of different modalities, but what I work mostly with today is de-armoring and IFS and inner child healing in different ways. So I have sessions with couples or individual sessions, and I also hold workshops.
And I'm Laura, and I started this journey, I guess, because of my depression, and I worked through it. And thanks to that, I have a lot of insight. I became a coach, a trauma-informed coach. So I help people to spot traumas in their life and work deeper elsewhere, maybe during de-armoring with you. So that's me. Welcome to our show.
Go.
It's episode 4.
Welcome.
And today we're going to be talking about authenticity, the masculine, the feminine, and how it works together. This
Cats.
almost like cats on your t-shirt.
Look at that.
And they're in perfect harmony.
Yes, and it also makes a good coming together from talking about coping strategies. Like what's authenticity? How do we relate from authenticity? What does it mean? How do we show up authentically?
Mm-hmm. So my question would be, like, first of all, what authenticity is actually?
For me, authenticity means that you're relating from not from your coping strategies, but from your truth in the here and now. And that also means you're giving up manipulation, for example.
Yeah.
Subtle ways of manipulating, like, for example, a man that's interested in a woman, he maybe just wants to have sex, but he can't say that. So he used different manipulative strategies to get her into bed. And then he's not honest at all. He's just using that to get laid. And that's a big step to actually show up and say, okay, this is what I want. And yeah, and if you want that, sure, and then you also have to be, curious, or you don't have to be curious, but it helps to be curious about a no and a yes. I can get a no, I can hug you, no. Like, okay, how does that feel inside my body? And if I get a yes and hug you, oh, how does that feel? Because otherwise we're just, again, back to hunting the safety and not exposing ourselves to our own truth and putting our truth out into the world. Because that is also the empowerment that comes from authenticity. You're taking something that's alive in your whole body and you're bringing it forth and out into the world.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. But also there's another aspect of it that I see is being authentic for me means I know who I am and I allow it to be there in the world. So like I can be authentic when I'm not afraid. I let the fear go. So this happened to me lately, and somebody asked me, okay, would you like, for example, to go on a football match with me and just, have that time together? And I said, honestly, no. Honestly, I prefer to go to the woods and just, use that time in that way because I wouldn't enjoy it. I know I did that before. I wasn't authentic. I said, okay, I'll go with you. And then the third time and fourth time, and I was not very happy with that because it's not my passion,
Yeah.
And so I was so proud of myself because it was such a small thing, but I just said, no, this is not me. But hey, we can go for a walk if you like.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a lot also about being stable in yourself. And like actually daring to feel what is my truth in this moment, and daring to go and feel rejected by you or reject you, and to tend to those feelings without being totally overwhelmed and not looking for the energy out there all the time, being super vigilant and like, yeah, or being the pleaser, but really showing up. It's like, nah, don't feel like that. But I could also, what about this? Do you want to go to a restaurant instead? That might be also a way to show up.
Yeah, and I feel definitely I was able to do that because I worked through my own wounds, and I also worked a lot with accepting myself as I am and being lovable towards myself. So I'm able to show up there and say like, okay, this is not what I like. This is what I like, or you might like it or not. If you want to leave, you can, but it doesn't, yes, of course, I can be sad that I want somebody in my life, but they then leave, and I can feel that sadness. At the same time, it doesn't affect me like deeply and feeling like rejected and not good enough, not lovable enough. So I feel this is possible when you work on yourself. So you're being through this healing journey, and the healing journey never ends, by the way. There's a lot of shit to uncover. When you can show up for yourself, that's a very good thing. That means you are coming from this point of love for yourself, right?
Yeah, and for me, it's also about allowing the slowness. Feeling takes a lot more time to tune into and to process, and to allow to be in that slowness with somebody else can be such a healing gift. Okay, I show myself to you, and I'm vulnerable, and can I feel and be seen and received in that? And then you have to be in the container of somebody that actually can receive you in that. Because if you show yourself vulnerable to somebody else and they can't handle it or they can't meet you, it can be quite intense of experience.
Yeah, well, that means that you're also on a different, let's say, I don't want to say level, but in a different place on your journey, right? So if we're at the same pace, more or less, we have different experiences, but you also coming from this point where you can be vulnerable with me. Yeah. That means we can find that connection and just understand each other.
Exactly. That's when the discernment comes in, to see, when is it appropriate, when is it not. Here's the cat, here is it not.
Yeah.
So that takes some wisdom, and that takes some maturity to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. That just comes with time, or maybe for some people, it depends on your journey, because you might have less problems with attachment, you have less maybe trauma in your early childhood, so it's easier for you to see that in the early stage of your life. But for others, it just comes with experience and wounds and just reliving the same situation from their childhood, which we spoke about in the first episode about trauma. So I feel it really depends. It's so different for everyone.
It does, and you have to follow your own script of your journey to see where you're at and what you feel comfortable with. Because it's also easy to get into this kind of work, and then you're like, hallelujah, and you want to give it to the world, but then the world is not ready to receive it, and then you can get all bitter and resentful.
Yeah, so there should be always a space when you're authentic, and there should be always a space for you to say, it's okay, they don't have to take it from me. Like, even if you just want to give somebody something. And I had that situation recently. I said, like, oh, well, if you want, we can work on that. And there's a way, I know, like, I can maybe help you in a way. And that person was like, no, because I'm not ready for it. And I'm like, it's totally fine. It's totally fine to not be ready for this. And, you have to be like ready for that kind of rejection, and if we want to call it, or like the no, and just say, and that's fine, because you do you and I do me, right?
Yeah, and it's almost like you can feel it in your body. It's like if you're reaching too much forward, it's like you want to affect somebody. And then you should like lean back and feel your backside of your body. You can say like, okay, now I'm in a better balance. Now I can hold myself, and I can hold the other person's perspective, and I can fine tune where I need to go in this dialogue. Mm-hmm.
Because it should flow naturally. So I just also had the like reality check. Said, no, maybe I'm I don't want to, dominate that, and just back off a little bit and make space. And if that person wants my help, they're just going to reach out, and, that's their choice.
Yeah, and it's just like this movement of water, it flows naturally.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Be like water, my friend.
Be like water. Yeah.
Yeah. Like fire. Or like fire, yeah. But about fire and water,
yes.
There's the masculine and feminine. And I feel that being authentic nowadays is so difficult because of the different dynamics, how life changed over the past 100 years, I would say. And, the acceptance of feminine and masculine, it's like, it gets tough for people.
It does. And it's such a heated topic right now. That could be hard to even talk about.
Well, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
So maybe we want to just explain what it means really, like what's masculine, what's feminine, because like if you look at the ancient times, there is a very clean understanding of what's feminine, what's masculine.
Yeah.
So basically, for example, the feminine is the softness, the intuition, is the connection, nutrition, and also earth, but also the creative energy.
Yes.
While masculine is like the giver, doer.
The sun, the space,
being rational.
The rationality, the mind,
the rationality, but also like being in action and like providing and being of service in a way, right?
Yeah, and it's just like the chakras, the mind is the feminine, the wisdom, the throat is the masculine, the truth, the heart, the feminine, the solar plexus, it's masculine force, and the stomach is the softness, the sensuality, the flow is the feminine.
Okay, I have a question then. The females. We females. We tend to voice our needs a lot. It goes from here. When men, they, like, for example, when they show emotions, it goes through other chakras, I guess. So, like, it's kind of interesting that you say this is masculine, but that's how the women kind of voice their needs, and, like, they need to talk.
Yeah, the communication is feminine. So that's
but the chakra is masculine.
Yeah, it is. What? But I think the throat needs, of course, to be connected to the solar plexus, to the force, to come through. And it needs to be integrated. And I mean, for me, it's not only about male, female. It's about masculine and femininity, and we have it both, as you see, the black cat, the white cat. Or the yin and yang with the black sphere with a white dot in it, and vice versa. So we need to contain both the dualities, because the dualities is also born out of a single point and come out into the material world. And from there, the polarity dance starts. And then we had to navigate through that.
Yeah, and I feel like in ancient times, it was more natural in a way that people would tune into the nature, but also into themselves in a way. And they would take on, like, the females. Of course, I'm not talking about any political implications here and, like, how women didn't have a choice and so on. No, that's not it. But, like, the women were very connected to their intuition. They would be very nurturing, and that part of us would shine. Whereas now I feel that it's very suppressed because the times changed, and we're working mothers, and many times single, like I can refer to that. There is the tendency that we women and men as well, like, suppress that part of ourselves, whereas it has to be in the balance so that we can,
Oh, yeah. And it's been a societal male suppression for a long, long time. So there's naturally a lot of anger there. And a lot of frustration from both sexes, I think, because the male isn't actually comfortable of being in that role, I believe. We haven't seen the divine masculine or the divine feminine. So that's a journey that we're on, and it demands a lot of healing. And for me, I had to do a really big journey tuning into my feminine energy and my softness and my tenderness, because I saw that I just couldn't take care of myself in that soft way. I had to learn like taking, Epsom salt baths. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm really uncomfortable. Could I really bring this into my, my system and just like, enjoy myself and receive the pleasure? It's like, wow, I'm having a lot of problems receiving and, to take that journey.
So it's like, for the people who listen to us, it's not really about your sex or gender, whatever. It's more about the parts of you that get activated in different parts of your life. So as you said, like, I wanted to take care of myself and feel that softness, and that was the feminine part of you.
You're on where you're at your journey, and you have your proclivities. And I always also think that we have sort of a coding that we come into this life with, that we feel good with navigating through. And I mean, I'm predominantly in my masculine energy, I feel, but it's like in different times on the journey, you might have to explore one or the other of the energies. Like I was a Thai boxer for like 15, 20 years because as a child, I felt I couldn't get access to the masculine energy. I felt like weak and afraid. So that was a way for me to actually feel the strength.
Toughen up.
Yeah. But then it comes to a point where if I don't have that tenderness inside myself, then either I have to integrate it in myself, or I have to look for it through the feminine. And then that transactional game starts again.
Yeah. And so there must be some kind of balance. So it doesn't really matter if you have 70%, let's say 70%, that's the masculine talking, 70% of feminine and 30% of masculine, doesn't really matter. What matters is that they're integrated in a smooth and good way with acceptance and love and so on. So, I could see that I have a lot of feminine, but I cannot do it every day. Like, I have to step into masculine. So my house looks like very feminine so that I can tune into my feminine. But, like, that's my way to reconnecting with my creativity, with my feminine soft side. I just look at it and I feel like, yeah, still there.
Yeah, that's so interesting to feel into, because for me, I just love, to have be a container and hold space for, and also be a provider. That's a beautiful aspect.
Yeah.
But it can also become a shadow aspect if I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a provider or a container for you so that I can get.
No, yeah. There's another interesting thing, because I was speaking with some of my colleagues, men, and I was saying like, well, listen, this happened to me. I went for coffee and I felt like a little bit strange because the coffee was not offered to me. So, I had to pay for it. And I know that in Scandinavia, it's pretty common, but I felt kind of like, not really comfortable with that. And then I went out another time with another person, and I felt so safe, not because somebody paid for it, but I just felt like, oh, it's taken care of, and I could be in my feminine, and it's not about money at all. It's just, I felt like, oh, I'm comfortable with that. It's nice.
Yeah, I can see that. And that's being a trigger for a lot of people out there. Yeah. So, but it's just like what we're doing here is to feel into and what feels true for you. Because, yeah, it's so
personal.
Yeah, and it can be so rigid, what's right and what's wrong. And
but
it's a hard one.
Yeah, it is hard. But for example, I asked my colleagues, like, okay, what would you do? Like, what's your perspective? Like, would you offer coffee on a date, or would you just, and the answer I got, I was shocked, because one of the guys said, well, I would offer coffee if I liked the girl. And I was
oh my gosh, sounds like,
that's so transactional. I was like, are you serious? And then I spoke with my friend, who's a real gentleman. Like, I have to say, he has, he makes you feel like so nice and comfortable. And I spoke with him about it. And he said, I don't care if I like or I don't like, if it's a good meeting or not. I'm just taking care of it because that's my masculine. I'm doing it, baby. Yeah.
And then you can feel, you can relax into that structure, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I told him, like, this is nice. This makes me feel safe, taken care of. I don't have to think, because you know what? I have to think about so many things, changing my tires, paying my bills, and so on. If you take me for a coffee and you just take care of it, nice. Thank you. That's
exactly. And the feminine taking care of everybody, taking everybody's perspective into account and all of that. And then we actually get the masculine containment. It's like,
that's when me as my feminine says, I can relax now.
Yeah.
And I can be vulnerable. I cannot be vulnerable with a dominantly feminine man. Like when the feminine is there and I have to step into my masculine, I feel like I cannot relax.
Yeah, because that's what I found quite, Teal Swall, I find her quite fascinating. That like the divine feminine can't exist without the masculine providing space for that. And that's a bit of a controversial statement, but it takes a lot of feeling into these things and, start questioning our beliefs about this, because these beliefs are so tight.
But you know what? Because I really, I had like conflicting emotions around that, what Teal Swan said. And I was like, from one side, yes, from the other, no. I mean, we can still provide for ourselves because we live in times that we live in. Yeah. And I can allow myself to have a house and like take care of my child and so on.
Yes.
But it's a different thing, like must and can.
Exactly.
And that you may feel with somebody that you can just let go that role and just be in your feminine. It is extremely amazing to feel that. But at the same time, it is uncomfortable because we women, we got used to it. And like, I have a friend, there's some dating and she says, wow, he never lets me pay for anything. He makes me feel like I'm taking care of, and I feel uncomfortable with that because I feel like I must do something, like I should pay. He shouldn't be doing all of that. And I'm feeling, okay, but where does this come from? And that comes from like the society that says, no, you have to take care of yourself and you're going to pay your coffee and you're going to pay your coffee,
And I mean, explore that and explore what it triggers in you and what's your truth right now. And why and where does it come from? And that's how we can work with everything.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be yours. Because then when my friend reflected and she was like, with softness, and she said, but I like it. I feel like it's nice. It makes me feel relaxed. And I said, there you go, girl.
Exactly.
So it is like we're kind of conditioned to feel like, oh, now I'm like 50-50 masculine and feminine, 50-50 split bill. And like, and it is a discomfort. I know another story where a woman has to step in masculine a lot because the man is very much in feminine and he's refusing to be masculine. And she's doing everything around the house, gardening, doing heavy stuff. And I'm feeling like, are you not feeling a little bit overwhelmed from that? And she says, yes, I do. But he doesn't want to step in.
No, and I see that also working with couples, for example, where some men have very hard time expressing boundaries and showing up with boundaries. And then the dynamic tends to be that the woman is like chasing him. Like, I want to see you. I want to feel your boundary. I want to hear your no. And the man gets like, he withdraws more and more and more. And the woman starts like thousands of projects. And the man has to sort of take care of everything. But he doesn't dare to go into his no. Because, and for me, that's also a thing that comes from our childhood.
Mm-hmm. Standing your ground.
Exactly, standing your ground. And what would it mean to say no? Can a no be inclusive? Can I say no, but you know what? I care, and let's find a different way here. Or it's so often that our no is equivalent to being abandoned. And like, for example, for me, if I was a bad boy, sometimes I wouldn't get sent to my room. And it's like, okay, now you're a bad boy, go to your room. So that's a loss of connection with my caregiver, which is like the worst experience for a child. So if I say no, or I express my boundary or anger or something, my fear is of being rejected and sent to my room, basically. And then I have to deal with that in myself and heal that within myself so I can show up into the world and say, these are my wants and needs. Otherwise, my wants and needs are not safe and not respected.
So that wound can actually influence your masculine
Oh, yeah.
Energy.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's a good angle to think about it, right? So
Yeah.
why does that person, why they don't show up in a masculine way when that's let's say that's the need of the moment, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what naturally you would do. Like, I just have an example. When I was in Malmo and I was picking up a huge plant and it was super, super heavy, and it took me 15 minutes to find a man who would help me. 15 minutes, and they were just walking by looking at me and not giving a shit. So I was like, wow, this is like, and whereas I can compare that, for example, with Poland, and if a guy sees me like trying to get something and it's heavy, they would step in. And I'm just thinking how far in Sweden, for example, men became like detached from this masculine like feeling like, I'm going to help you, I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to like lift it for you because of course, I mean, I'm like, you know, small and tiny and you're big and you can help me because you have that advantage. And men don't do that. It's like, I wonder if it's because women are so offended by, oh, I can take care of myself, you know, don't step in.
Could very well be, because Me Too and all that. But I would also put in the angle, like the other day I was swimming and there were two guys there that were in their masculine energy and really wanted to show me how I could improve my technique. And I was really like, yeah, I was really satisfied of just like, okay, I'm going to receive this and let them show me. And because it's something beautiful then that somebody comes in and cares and, okay, let me show you a tip here.
Love that.
Yeah.
What a fun.
It's like, yeah, okay, I can receive that. Because otherwise it would be like, no, I'm fine. I can do everything, you know. And
yeah.
to shift that to actually be in the receiving mode. Yeah. So that's also fascinating.
That's because I can recall that, like, in the way I work, like when I work with my creative ideas, that's like very feminine. I'm connected to my feminine side, but when I present it, masculine energy kicks in, and it has to, because otherwise it's very hard to, you know, be like, convince others that this is a great idea. You have to be in this, I can do it, you know, attitude. So it's like, it's funny how you can actually work with this and balance it out when it goes like this, you know, right? It's just connects.
It was like the Kundalini snake going.
Kundalini snake. Yeah, I love that. So I feel like that's the hard task that we need to find our balance. And the nuances are so small, and it's like just, you know, you have to really tune in.
Yeah, and I was also thinking about how we can relate from the different chakras. Like you can be in your mind and think about these things. You can be in your throat and feel like, what do I need to voice into the world? But also in the heart. Like feel the pain of this. Like being in this duality of being maybe betrayed or being by masculine, or, you know, the wounds with your father or your mother, and just like allowing the grief in the lungs and in your heart. And then also like the solar plexus of like the will to actually change, to get a direction. And then the belly is, you know, the wordless, just embracing of this dance of polarities and the beauty and the horror of it.
Yeah, and just tuning in and understanding what's my truth, what actually belongs to me.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes you have to crack open completely and be forced to do this journey. Because you're like totally in your mind, you're just righteous, you know everything, and then life sort of has to slap you around a few times for you to become humble and say like, yeah, that's what I used to think, but I'm willing to change my mind. I'm willing to actually feel deeply into this polarity and what's alive in me and what actually feels right in my body and not just in my mind.
I don't know if you will agree with that, but there's another aspect of this whole femininity and masculinity thing. We're not stable. What I hear from nowadays feminists, it's like, oh, women equals men. Yeah, well, it is like that, but we're not the same. How we build, how we work. Like, for example, there's a lot of research now on females where we live like in cycles, and there are like cycles of the nature, but also our menstrual cycle. There's the moon. There's so many aspects. There are times of the month where we're very productive, other times of the month that we're really not, and we really need to like just, take care of ourselves and so on. And there's science behind it. And we're so different. And the masculine could basically probably be more stable in a way, like as he goes through a month, right?
Yeah.
While the feminine cannot. And I'm just thinking, like, how does that physical aspect affect us, and how we kind of ignore it. Like, women say, like, I don't care, I have to go on and deliver, work 100% every day, work out every day. No, there's research, we'll link it in this episode as well, that shows that absolutely not. There's type of workouts you can do at the beginning of your cycle, and the one that you should do at the end. Like, it's totally different.
Yeah, and I mean, the feminine has, in a way, the depth every month with a period. And I mean, for me, I see that we equaled, like, equality. It's we're equal worth, but we're different. We're two sides of a coin.
Right.
So it's getting mixed up, and that's what I see.
Yeah, so we're on the same side.
Yeah,
right? I thought so. But yeah, like it's like we cannot have the same life experience, and it's just funny that now we women put on ourselves this kind of like called shackles, because we're thinking like we have to deliver in the same way, and armor in the same way as men, and it's just not possible in the same way. Even there was some research on chefs, and like women, it changes the taste, how we taste food. It changes throughout the month. And like, try to nail that, when you have your period.
Yeah, that's very fascinating.
It's how we are. And I feel like when we reject that, you're just neglecting your own body at that point.
Oh yeah, and we can't tune into each other if we have our armor on, or if all the feminine are just in their sort of fighting stance, then it's very hard to actually get a heart-to-heart meeting. Or, for example, a man just being like really soft and feminine and never, set any boundaries. I mean, it's different coping strategies, but that could be also a way of a lot of men today react, like,
to a strong woman.
Yeah, or after the Me Too movement, like, I never want to speak my truth, or be bold, or be too masculine, because then it's offensive.
Which is not, really.
Which is not, because then, you have to step into the warrior energy of actually protecting, but from a clear heart space. And that's what I was thinking about also. It's about a line of progression through our lives, basically, going from childhood to a teenager. It's like, then you go into the warrior energy as a man to protect. But then you go from the warrior to the king. But the king has his scars and his wisdom, because the warrior is so much more easy to manipulate, because he doesn't have the self-conscience and hasn't been through the battles yet. But then maybe the king to elder, or, and the same with the feminine journey. Yeah. Like going from a child, going to the maiden with a good quality of caretaking and nourishing. But then the queen has the queen wisdom and clear sight.
Yeah.
And then it's the beauty of the polarities meeting, and appreciation and the love, but not the sucking of the energy from the other,
or rejecting.
Or rejecting, for that matter.
Yeah, then you can show up authentically. I mean, if you're in that feminine, in that masculine, and as you said, like, each of us has a different setup. Like, you can be more masculine even as a woman and more feminine as a man, and that can work out together. But when you show up authentically in that, I mean, that's amazing. But again, I feel like you cannot reject your feminine part. Nobody's 100% masculine. Nobody's 100% feminine. And when you reject that part, it just cannot show up authentically.
And I mean, that being said, relationships, it's the hardest upaya, like the hardest spiritual practice that you can do. So there's a reason for that. But the alternative is, you know, shutting down or being inauthentic and
suffering, feeling lonely as well, or alone. But there's one more aspect, because you mentioned that I feel about a boy becoming a man and a girl becoming a woman, and I feel before we had some rituals, and indigenous cultures, they still have these rituals, whereas we do not really have. And there's like, you don't feel that change. And actually there's a lot going on. So, I mean, can we talk a little bit about that initiation process?
Yeah, I've been so keen on the initiation with my son. Just like, you know, you're going from one way of being in the world to another way. And that takes, you know, an awareness of the child or from the parent to acknowledge also, like there's a transition here. There's something new. Or when a woman goes into getting her first blood, for example, okay, now you're becoming a woman. And that comes with something. And from being a child and being receiving nourishment and, you know, going to, okay, what do you want? What's your responsibility of actually putting out into the world?
So I feel like when we don't have these moments in life, and it's just the transition is like, it's just normal and that's it, then it's hard to reconnect with that feminine masculine, because it's like kind of like it goes in the back, like in the background, you know. It's not important. Whereas when you think about these indigenous cultures, and there's this initiation for a boy, and he becomes maybe not a warrior, but he's like, you know, goes and gets an animal, and you know, that kind of stuff. Like he has to go through different tasks and complete them, and then he feels like, now I'm getting into this masculine energy.
Exactly. And it's, you know, because we bring in the intention, because otherwise we tend to think about it's almost like a magical line in the sand that you cross and then you're an adult. But that's not how it works. You know, we need to bring our conscious attention to a process that's unfolding, and then we can give guidance. Because, I mean, I didn't go through any passage like that when I was a child. It was more like, okay, a lot of teenagers getting drunk and starting to explore whatever sexuality is. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And instead, we need to consciously, okay, what's your responsibility? How do you show up in the world? What's your learnings in this new phase of your life?
Absolutely. I think we need to sum up, because my battery is running low. Not my energetic battery, but my computer. But it was amazing. I feel this is like, we could talk about it for hours.
Yeah.
And I hope this gives you a lot of, insight into how to be there authentically for yourself and for others.
Yes.
And that we're going to explore it more, maybe in different kind of topics in different directions.
There's a lot to unpack here, so
for sure.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks you so much, and hit the subscribe button as always if you didn't. But thank you, and see you soon.
See you soon.